In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Hello and welcome, everyone. Something important happened that many people didn't notice. At a major summit, Russian President Putin and China's president stood together and said something powerful. They said that the world after February 2022 is not the same as before. They believe the world is going through a huge shift, something that only happens once every 100 years. It's the kind of change where one global power rises and another starts to fade. Just like what happened after World War II, when Britain lost its leadership and the US took over with the power of the dollar. That's why we're seeing someone like Trump making a comeback. He and the US government know very well that America is losing its grip. The US has lost many battles. Putin took control of a third of Ukraine, and America is no longer the dominant force in the Middle East, especially after China helped bring Iran and Saudi Arabia together. So Trump's behavior may seem wild or chaotic, but it's more like the actions of a fading power trying to hold on. It actually reminds me of an old Egyptian movie called Al-Yad al-Naima, with Ahmed Majar and Salah Zulfikar. There was a character who acted like a tough guy, yelling, fighting, showing off, but in the end he calmed down, carried chickens and ducks, sat down, and peacefully ate sweet potatoes. Things had changed. That's kind of what's happening with the US right now. Some people might ask, are you happy about this? Are you sad? Honestly, I'm just explaining what's going on. You're free to agree or disagree, of course, but it's important to understand why China is buying up ports all over the world. In the past, China invested most of its money in US Treasury bonds, but now things are shifting, and fast. Back in 2010 and 2011, China had over $1.3 trillion invested in US Treasury bonds. But today, that number has dropped to around $760 billion, and it's still going down. China is pulling its money out and using those dollars to buy ports instead. A port in Bangladesh, one in the Philippines, another on the Red Sea. This isn't random. It's part of their long-term plan for the Belt and Road Initiative, and also preparation for the coming global conflict or transition. We also need to understand why BRICS is expanding so fast. The group now has 11 countries, especially after recent additions like Indonesia, Egypt, Ethiopia, the United Arab Emirates, and Iran. Even Saudi Arabia was on its way to joining. These countries understand what's happening. They see that US dominance is fading. Putin's steady stance and China's calm reactions are big signs that the world is going in a totally new direction. This is why we're talking today about de-dollarization. Who's begging now? Who's making false claims? For example, China recently denied any direct talks with the US, even after American officials claimed communication was happening. The Chinese government clearly stated there is no official contact between us and the American government. They're asking for something simple: fair trade, no more unfair tariffs, and a relationship based on mutual respect. China has been firm from the start, just like Putin. Despite all Trump's efforts, from the moment he returned to the White House, calling Putin his friend, putting pressure on Zelensky, and trying to shift the narrative, Putin didn't flinch. Just a couple of days ago, Trump even said, "Putin let me down." But it's not just about him. The world has changed. There are many signs that show this transformation is real. So if you're asking, should we really be talking about moving away from the dollar? My answer is yes. Why? Because US dominance is slowly but surely declining. Look at Trump's wild actions, jumping from one move to another like a desperate man. Meanwhile, China stays calm and strategic. When Trump imposed tariffs on Chinese goods, China hit back instantly by cutting off imports of American agricultural products. Instead, they signed $1 billion soybean deal with Brazil, a fellow BRICS country. That's how you play smart in today's world. Brazil responded like this: "You're forcing me? Fine. I won't buy from you anymore." Just like that, one decision, one deal, and the game changed. Why? Because in BRICS, we're like a family. We look out for each other. Brazil belongs with us, and we belong with Brazil. Our trade now happens in our own national currencies. We're not chasing the US dollar anymore. That's the message. The old rules don't apply anymore, Mr. Superpower. The movie you used to play in the 60s and 70s doesn't work today. The world has changed. The way the U.S. twisted arms, the way it brought down the Soviet Union, we remember. What it did to Japan, the lost dream, and the crushed Japanese economy, we remember. We've seen it again with Europe. All the rising powers were taken down, except one. Now the one power standing strong and learning from others' mistakes is China. China is not standing alone. It's backing Putin. That's why it stood by him all this time. It's preparing for the years of hardship after years of plenty. Just like China was quiet and still for 3 or 4 years. Remember? No one talked about China, but behind the scenes it was preparing for this moment. Because China knows if Putin falls, Taiwan will be next. And after Taiwan, they'll go after China itself. So their future is tied together. That's why China's and Russia's patience and stability over the past period are powerful signs. One major sign is how central banks around the world are slowly moving away from the dollar. They're shifting to other currencies and to gold. Over the last 4 or 5 years, this trend has become clear. Just like people keep some savings at home, some gold, some jewelry, countries do the same. Every central bank holds reserves, a mix of assets for emergencies. Why? Because if a country needs to import something and doesn't have the cash, it can sell part of its gold and buy what it needs, from Russia or anywhere else. That's how it works. In the past, most reserves were held in US dollars because it was the currency of the world's strongest country. But that's changing now. When central banks around the world hold a specific currency in their reserves, it's usually a sign that the currency is strong and trusted. But today, those same banks are slowly moving away from the US dollar. In the past, global reserves were made up of 80 to 90% dollars. Today, that number has dropped below 57.5%. That's a clear trend, and it's still going down. Now you might ask, does that mean the dollar will disappear? No, just like the British pound didn't disappear. But the dollar's dominance is fading. Why? Because things have changed. The US once made up more than 50% of the world's GDP. Today, that share has dropped significantly. As America's influence weakens, governments are reducing their reliance on the dollar. Even sovereign wealth funds and major investment institutions are moving away from the dollar. They're looking for alternatives, precious metals, real estate, and sadly, even Bitcoin. Yes, the so-called miracle currency that's being hyped up everywhere. America is now trying to make up for the dollar's decline by pushing people toward Bitcoin. You can see it clearly. The president of the world's most powerful country hosts an event and says, "I invite top investors to join me in my miracle currency." Isn't that madness? It's like someone buying the license plate #1 in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, even Mars. Some people just throw money at whatever looks flashy. Now we have people buying Trump coins, Bitcoin, even Melon coin, or whatever nonsense is next. It's all fake, just a game full of scams, drugs, weapons, and shady deals. They hype it up to $100,000 and then crash it back to $70,000. Meanwhile, smart money is moving into real assets, gold, real estate, and physical investments in different countries. Another major risk, U.S. national debt. It's becoming a real danger. Let me explain where we're headed. Back in the 1980s, America's national debt was under $2 trillion. But now, it's way beyond that, and the risks are massive. Since March 2022, when the U.S. Federal Reserve raised interest rates by 0.5%, the dollar surged against the euro and other major currencies. By mid-2022 and early 2023, the dollar was worth more than €1, meaning Europeans were giving up €1.02 or more to get just $1. But things have changed. Now the dollar is down to around €0.87 or €0.88. Despite interest rates still being above 4%, the dollar is weakening. Why? Because political pressure is heating up. Former President Trump has been openly attacking the Fed chairman, pushing hard to reduce rates. And once those rates actually start to fall, the dollar is likely to lose more value. As interest drops, investors will abandon the dollar, debt instruments will become less attractive, and the market will be flooded with dollars, further decreasing its value. If you're holding dollars now, What you can buy with them tomorrow might be less. So maybe it's time to diversify. Shift into stronger currencies like the euro, Japanese yen, or British pound. Not into currencies. Consider precious metals. Gold, the historical safe haven, is expected to rise in value. Silver is also showing strong potential. And don't forget real estate. But be smart. Choose properties in active, growing areas near schools, hospitals, or universities. Main rule: don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify between gold, silver, and secure real estate. Thanks for watching, and if you found this analysis useful, don't forget to subscribe to our brand new channel, Global News. Your support helps us grow. See you in the next video.